Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing today? How are you guys? I am going to be critiquing this portrait today, which is going to be very, very fun. This was a piece I wanted to critique last week, but I didn't have the time. Let's see. Let me actually just make that so that our before and after is nice and quick. Hi, Kyle. Hello, everyone. Hi, Ariel. Hi, Kangsha. Welcome all to my class. Talk about portraits real quick. And I'm just going to do a quick critique for this one. I haven't done a portrait critique in a while since, being a portrait specialist, I come into portraits like I see them way more than I see any other type. And they can get pretty boring for me, I'll be honest with you, because it's such an exhausted subject for me. I have gone as far as I can go personally, maybe a little bit further left for me to go, but I find them not that challenging a critique. So it's always kind of not that challenging, but I like doing the critiques of stuff that I'm not exactly that great in because it's a challenge for me every single time. I'm not a specialist in. It's always nice seeing if I could add something, throw a peanut on the hill. If that's a saying. I just made it up. Just taking one last look at the Reddit wall and one last look at the Discord general critique text channel to see if there's anything else I'd like to figure out. Very nice critique, Ariel, on the text channel. Good job. Might be able to hop into these as well. Just taking a look at these portraits, possibly. Just to throw something extra in there. Oh, I hate when it does that. Ugh. Okay. Why are so many files being saved as image these days? Like, why aren't they given something else? I wonder. Okay, so let's get started for today. So I'm going to take a look at this portrait, and then I'm going to take a look at these two, hopefully, if time allows. But to get your work critiqued, all you have to do is go to istebrak.com. So you just go to istebrak.com, click on the subreddit icon here, and join our Discord. Join the Discord also to get critiques, because there's a general critique channel there, but to get announcements for when these critiques go live. YouTube isn't doing that great a job at sending out my notifications. It's doing a number on all the art channels. We've all been siphoned or shut down or bottlenecked or whatever the term is for a while now, for years now. So we have to find alternate ways to send out notifications for our live streams until hopefully one day a video hosting site, a new one, pops up that may give us an outstretched hand of mercy. But until then, we have to, use these different avenues. So to get announcements, please use the Discord. I usually announce through the announcements channel whenever I go live. I do it every time. And then the subreddit, this is where I selected the piece today to critique. This is a 14-day challenger that has been attempting their 14-day challenge. So what is a 14-day challenge? What is that all about? The 14-day challenge, you draw a face every day or 14 times. Originally, it was 14 days in a row, but for some people, that's not quite realistic. But even if you did it 14 days in a row, it would look better on the 14th time. time. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And the reason why it's so important is to show you that there is dormant skill that you have. You have dormant skill inside. You just, maybe because you're rusty, maybe because you're not familiar with the painting program you're using, maybe the confidence is shot. There's so many different things for why you're not performing your absolute best that day. So doing something many, many times in a row gets rid of all that rust, you shake all that rust off, and the real skill is revealed. So that's the one thing that you get. That's one of the things that you get from the 14-day challenge. The second thing is practice. Repetition. The brain loves repetition. The brain learns everything through repetition. Repetition and the brain are best friends. You really have to give repetition a chance. Even if you don't understand it, just exposing yourself to the knowledge almost every day or every other day, your brain will reward you for it. It will show you that it's learning even when you're asleep. It's processing things. It's amazing. And it's your best friend, and it's your most loyal companion and most loyal servant. So repeating things many, many times, you help it help you. So most of the time, our conscious knowledge is not conscious. Like our skill isn't conscious. It's unconscious, so to speak. So you don't really need to think too hard to draw well once you've drawn many, many times in a row, many different subjects. You don't need to think too hard. It just kind of happens once you get really, really good at it. And I just dropped my pen and my bird flew across the house because she got scared. So, one second. When you draw many times in a row, your skill starts to sharpen. You start to make less of those repetitive mistakes, those mistakes that have to do with edges or contrast or anatomy. And so you get all the fundamentals that are weakest. You get them in the front, kind of boil them up to the top, and you can really see where you're lacking. So the 14-day challenge, I really recommend it. And finally, the last point I want to make is that portraits are an amazing way to break into art. They're a great doorway into all of that. So come on, go over there. So I'm going to take a look at this portrait, talk about what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. They're doing a lot of things right, but let's start with the background. So the background and the object seem to be at war with each other. It's going to be pretty tricky selecting the object from the background. And the biggest giveaway is magic wand. So I need to go down all the way to number 1, which is not a good sign, just to separate the background from the head. So for your 14-day challenge, you should be able to have a nice, clear-cut separation between the midtone and the background value. Matter is different than the air around it. The air around it has a very, very different behavior with the light, and you shouldn't show that there's this transparency or ghostly presence of the background. Midtones on the midtones of the matter, which is the head. Matter is very different. It's opaque. And so this object needs just a little bit more midtones. So I'm just going to select, go into darken, and then just try to darken the back of the skull as best as I can. So we're not looking at this extremely kind of dark, ghostly surface at the top. So you can see before, after, it's just a small change, and where we will have highlight is right here in the middle. We can have highlight around the forehead. So that helped us kind of make her feel a little bit less ghostly. And then the background value, it's a great value. I'm not sure if I'm seeing things. Let me see if it's true. It may just be me seeing things. My monitor is darker at the top, but yeah, it's just me seeing things. So let's talk about the eyes. So now that I've separated them a little bit more clearly, I'm going to just take the character out of the background. And then just lock the layer. I want to talk about the eyes. So the eyes have this bloodshot look to them. They have this dark cornea, or the cornea of the eye, or whatever you want to call it. The white of the eye is too dark. And then after this, I want to talk about expression. There's so much expression in this version that you have here that you may not even notice it, but it's giving off a very clear story, very clear type of character. Very tense, scared, maybe traumatized, 1,000-yard stare type of expression. So we're leaving shadow closer to the lash line intact. And then we are brightening the middle of the eye where most of the light is received. So before, you see how bloodshot that looked? After, before, after. So small change, but it matters because one day you're going to shift into color after all these grayscale studies, and you're setting yourself up for kind of a really dramatic eye that you might get stuck doing for a long time before you just finally say, I need to move away from this. And you won't even know how to start because it's so embedded in your skill. This is all me speaking from experience. I used to draw very, very dark whites in the eyes for some reason, and it made all my characters look depressed, or made them look a little bit evil as well. That's a big one. So be careful not to accidentally do that. It's a very deliberate choice. We use it for characters who are experiencing extreme emotion like screaming or yelling, any kind of bloodlust or fighting or mid-fight, mid-action, maybe some kind of dark sorcerer. Evil sorcery doesn't necessarily have to be evil. There's a lot of characterization in darkening the white of the eyes, a lot. So I'm going to merge that down. Then we're going to talk about the next element of expression that you have. Let me keep a copy of how it looked before so we can keep referencing the old expression. So the eyebrows. The eyebrows are very, very expressive here. I will duplicate this so I can adjust without damage. The eyebrows are tense towards the middle, or the inside, sorry, and raised at the back. So usually I encourage my students, especially if it's first-time student, that I'm just getting a diagnosis of their skill, I usually assign them a portrait front view as sort of an x-ray of their skill. That's how I x-ray my students when we first get to know each other in tutoring. And I see how they're working with their skill without accessories. So I usually say no expression. No accessories, no color. If you want to do color, that's different. That's a different part about a diagnosis. But usually I diagnose earlier students in grayscale because that reveals all their form and contrast knowledge. So if you're doing the 14-day challenge, don't characterize because you are just perfecting your base skill. Your base skill shouldn't have any kind of expression to it. It should be completely neutral so that this neutral base, it's easier to draw a smile from a neutral base than it is to draw a smile from an angry base. You're traveling much further to move that angry base you draw by default and try to make it into a smile. Then all your characters look creepy. So you have this accidental expression hovering over all your base drawings or your template skill. That's not good. You want to be able to draw a neutral template skill, perfect it, draw it backwards, draw it like with your eyes closed. Get that good at drawing a neutral portrait. Perfect, try to aim for perfect edges, perfect contrast, so that that neutral base can be modified and customized to whatever you use that portrait for in the future. And it will be very, very customizable. But if your base expression is very intense, you're going to have a hard time using that for all these different purposes. This is about skill building for making money and doing your book covers and your comic book covers and your panels and your portraits and your original characters, your illustrations, your character designs. This is what you're using all of it for. So before, after, lots of expression here. And then finally is the eyes, the pupils and the iris. So I'm just making it so that this character looks like she's looking right at me. A spaced out character. This is where I got that kind of dissociation 1,000-yard stare. A dissociated eye has a bit of a spaced out, unfocused distance in the pupils. So we want to make the character look like she's looking forward. Small, small adjustments. Now let's take a look at how it looked like before all of this. So before any of these changes, everybody ready? So before, after. So the reason why the neutral is so valuable here is because it's a reference point. We bring all our mistakes and we reference it back to the neutral, and we see where our where our template face really was this whole time. Do you see what I mean? So before, intense, middle of casting a spell of some kind of necromancy or necromancer. Do you see what I mean? And then after, neutral. It's not that neutral is better. Obviously, one of these is more interesting narratively and more exciting narratively, but it's not better for you. It's not because neutral is better than narrative. It's because it's not good for you on the education aspect. So you need to know what you're doing so that when you do intentionally want to make a character look intense, really intense, you know exactly how far a jump it is from neutral. So to give you a better idea of what I mean, imagine this is the neutral for all of your characters, and this is extreme anger and extreme bliss. Extreme anger, extreme bliss. So if you are kind of painting something that looks like this is an extreme anger, but it's not sadness, and it's not, it's a little bit further than sadness. It's a bit of shock, dissociation, some anger. This is a really intense expression. It's actually all the way over here. And you don't know, you had no idea this is where you were. And one day you're going to want to draw a character that is very happy, maybe blissful, maybe even ethereal. Ethereal, extreme bliss, kind of similar to each other. So let's say ethereal is right here. This is what you're going to accidentally end up doing. So filter, liquefy. You're going to most likely squint the eyes. All right, so you're going to most likely go there. And you're going to most likely do something like, the usual go-tos for expression. You're going to most likely give the character a smile. I've seen this so many times. This type of expression, very, very misdirected expression. Maybe raise the eyebrows up because you're assuming that a happy person has high eyebrows. Okay, this is getting more and more grippy socks by the minute. So if this is your neutral and you're building on your neutral, remember this is about how you're building on your neutral expression that you've memorized, your default template, okay? And you're just trying to make a character, in all honesty, you're just trying to make a happy character. This is what ends up happening. I see this probably once a week in classes. I see a character design, an illustration handed in by students, a character that's supposed to be like a beautiful goddess, or a character that's I don't want to be too specific with my references because I don't want to hurt my students' feelings. But I see this so often only because we have a non-neutral default portrait in their template. There's no neutral. They never learned what a neutral portrait looks like. And so in order to make a character look blissful, now we can do this to the neutral and just take a look what happens. So we have the eyebrows raised up, maybe with some bliss, so like ethereal bliss. Ethereal bliss may come with a wise eyebrow, which is a lifted eyebrow, like kind of Galadriel, a Galadriel type of character, with a gentle smile, just like the one I added earlier. To the template, it's easier to reach the smile, that smile, than it is from neutral, than it is to reach it from that extreme edge. And so we're just squinting the eyes. It's the same changes I made before. And now it looks like a very ethereal smile, right? Maybe we can raise the eyebrows up and keep the eyes have a natural eye socket closed. You know, they're kind of half open. Not half open, more than half open. We see the eyelids, so it looks very, very ethereal and like very, very happy. Extreme bliss. I don't know if it's PG, so I won't be able to render extreme bliss for you guys. But this is like what I'm basically, I mean, Galadriel's kind of like peace of mind. I don't know if she ever had peace of mind, to be honest. But I'm just trying to create a very nice smile. Okay, so let's compare. Let's compare this smile to this smile. Do you see that? Two very different characters. Two very different templates. This is what I'm saying, the danger of not studying expressions. One, not studying expressions. And two, not knowing that, do I even have a neutral? Like, is my skill maxed out at neutral expression? Do I have a template? So this is all, everything I've talked about today is advanced rendering, because this student is pretty advanced. So advanced portraiture, advanced illustration, this would fall under an advanced illustration tutorial. Because, you know, earlier students, they just want to frickin' draw a nose. They just want to get to the nose. They're not thinking about, you know, unique expressions or expressions that are mixed or complex or the neutral. But it is still something very, very relevant to a beginner. It's something that we can, yes, the mountain is all the way over there. Like you're right here at beginner flag and the advanced is right there in the back somewhere. Guess my brush stopped working. It's funny. It's funny when it does that. And there's the, you know, there's the advanced right there all the way in the back. There's late intermediate. And then there's late beginner or early intermediate. And then there's just flat out beginner. Beginner is right here and he's like, hey, you over there. And they're like, yeah, do you have any advice for me? and then the advanced student's like, make sure you have a neutral expression in your portraits. Make sure you know what a neutral expression is because you're going to make mistakes here and here. And this guy will also say, yeah, listen to him. And he's going to be making he's going to be the one making this mistake. Late beginner, early intermediate, and beginner, they're both in danger of drawing creepy expressions on all their characters. So, so listen to the advanced dudes when they tell you you're going to have a hard time if you don't study a neutral portrait for your 14-day challenge. Yes, it's an advanced subject to be worried about, but please think about it now so that you are being very, very aware when you have these kinds of templates in your 14-day challenge portrait. This is a very intense expression. I'm telling you, because this is my field. This is where I am a specialist. This is my PhD, so to speak. So believe me, this is a bad, because it's only going to get worse. You're only going to get more and more, maybe not this particular artist, but in general, I'm speaking to all of you. It's only going to get, you know, more difficult to fix the mistakes that you've been making for like 10 years. It's going to get very difficult to finally step away from that kind of habit because you're building habits right now. Most of your skills are habits. So, so this is what I have to say about all of that. I hope that was helpful for you guys. So let's recap. We have the neutral. We have the official critique before and after. And then we have the expressions that happen from each before and after. One of these actually reads, one of these is a little uncanny and maybe not deliberately uncanny. And I see this every single day, every single day, every single week. At the rate that I'm seeing illustrations in my job, because I also teach privately, I see this a lot, and I ask them, is this an evil character? I think once a week or twice a week, I always ask my students, is this an evil character? Did you intend for them to be evil? And they'll say, no. No, Istebrak, they're not evil. And I'll say, well, they look evil because this, and this is because your neutral template was not developed properly. All right, so let's move on. So we have these two portraits from this artist. So one quick thing I want to point out, you're drawing as if everything is lit by a candle. So maybe this is deliberate, maybe it's not, but be very careful because you are very, very muddy. You are reaching the muddiness. Muddiness is when you are always working with the brown. We say muddy because when you look at brown, brown as a color, what is brown? It's kind of red and orange, and it's down here. A brown as gray is these values. And you have just a little bit of these coming in. If all your values that you paint are from these group of grays, it's going to look muddy. No color, literally no color looks good except blue in this zone. Every other color looks like mud. Mud, mud, blue. Mud, mud, puke, mud. So be careful because that's where all your values are coming from. Most of them are in this zone, all of them actually. So again, except for the few that you picked out of this for the highlights, and it's so few. It's so few, but we go right back into mud when we look at your skin and in your midtones. So yes, maybe you're just drawing both of these in a dark scene. That's fine. If it's lit by a candle, there would be sharper cast shadows. If it was lit by some kind of, tent and it's darkish out and the tent curtain is closed and, it just seems like or a curtain is closed in a dark room. It seems like a very particular light source to be studying your portraits in because these were referenced as studies. But anyway, be careful with your light environment. It's kind of throwing off what you know to be skin. Let's talk about these expressions. So we have a lot of asymmetry. And this is an example of everything I just talked about. So you have a painful squint in one eyebrow. A painful squint in one eye, meaning this character looks like they're in pain. A very blissful smile, actually. That doesn't lift enough on one side. A nostril and a nose that seem to be out of the symmetry line. And less a definition on the nose. So the Cupid's bow is really coming out further than the eye socket, and that bridge needs to move up a little bit. And then very, very asymmetrical eyebrows, meaning the eyebrows look like they're from two different faces. So how do we fix all this? Well, we're going to remember our horizontal and vertical symmetry lines. So for 3/4 view, this is multi-layered. This is a multi-layered series of mistakes. We have 3/4 view mistakes, rotation mistakes, and we have expression mistakes, which have to do with characterization, psychology of the character, narrative. You can call it a narrative mistake when you make an expression mistake. So I'm just imagining these red lines, these horizontal lines, to help me line everything back in, line everything back up. And then I need to fix this eyebrow because yes, it's scarred, but that doesn't mean that we should completely throw away the original shape in the garbage because it's a unique eyebrow. We should still have some semblance of symmetry, unless you're really serious. It's like some kind of burn scar or some kind of intense asymmetry that you're going for on a narrative level. Try to get the two eyebrows to look similar. At the end of the day, you are early beginner, mid-intermediate, late beginner. I wouldn't say you're late beginner. I would say you're middle or early intermediate. I don't like labeling these, but these mistakes can be called beginner mistakes as well. These rotation issues that we see here. So before, after, before, after. But your painting and your brush control is definitely not beginner. So you are your experience is showing with your brushwork, which is a good thing. Usually brushwork lags behind. Some artists get really good at anatomy, but their brushwork needs a lot more work. It's not just messy, it's like their brushes all over the place. They use whatever brushes they can find. All right, so before, after, so a little more consistency in the two eyes. So wherever you could have added asymmetry, you added it. Maybe she's a character that's like saying, "Oh, I don't believe you." You know, like if she's saying that. But that over squinted eye on the left was just, it was not, I really have to think to imagine what expression she meant. And I'll do that expression for you in a second. So I'm just going to make this eyebrow symmetrical. And I'm going to try to make the eye sockets symmetrical. And I eyeballed the symmetry. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. There's no human that is perfectly symmetrical. So you don't have to be, you know, completely perfectionist about the symmetry. But I do suggest just try to be somewhat symmetrical. Let's flip the canvas and take a look. So over here, the eyebrow should rotate. Very weak edges as well. Your edges need a lot more sharpness. You need a lot more courage with your edges. Meaning anywhere where we have a surface change or a surface drop. Like this edge is very clean against the background right here. That's a nice clean edge. What happened to the rest? You have eyeliner on the inside of this eye, but not on the inside of this eye. That's another problem. It's causing a lot of confusion. Like I'm not sure what's happening to her eyes. And then you have another thing that the earlier artist had, which is dark whites in the eyes. If this is a narrative decision, that's fine. If that's the kind of character that she is, or that's what's up with her eyes, that's fine. And oopsie. I'm just trying to lighten them a little bit, just so we can get these eyes to look symmetrical and not off. But you see how that darkness in the white of the eyes was just too much. Okay. So I'm just trying to get things back to being symmetrical before I even think about expression, which is an idea to follow when you think about what should I be studying. And expression is the last unit for portrait artists, at least my students. They need to know what happens on an edge. They need to know how to manage symmetry, period, and then symmetry and rotation, which is another big one. Managing symmetry in three-quarter view, extreme three-quarter view, the free run angle that is now known officially as the free run angle. Those are all things you need to learn before you even add expression. And then you think about the psychology of expression. You're a human, so you should be able to kind of get an idea of what expressions you make when you're of a particular emotion. And then you just go from there. You just think about, okay, what if this person was angry but annoyed? What if this person was angry but sad? How do I work with the eyebrows? How do I work? You can't do all that and be thinking about rotation and be thinking about expression. Symmetry, right? You can't do all that and worry about the other stuff at the same time, which is why my students improve. I slowly introduce things, take everything out and introduce things back in pieces. And it's introduced back in a clean way where the skill is built properly. One thing piggybacks off another. So these eyes, I've introduced some contrast here. Really, really tricky working around your very, very fuzzy edges. Everything is very undefined, so I have to do a little extra work to match my brushes to your style. And again, I use that term very, very loosely. You can't really own to a style yet if you're still beginner or intermediate. You're just too much into the fundamentals to be claiming any style. You can't claim anything yet. Once you get a little more experience, you put in your hours, then a style chooses you, really. And I'm just cleaning up here, trying to get these eyes to do the same thing. And that should, you know, be a load off your shoulders, not worrying about style. That should be something that kind of gives you, ooh, phew, you know, I can just focus on enjoying this, and whatever style comes out accidentally, that's fine. And I'll worry about it on another day when I'm officially so good at, you know, fundamentals, I get bored and I want to start breaking rules. And you will know. You will know once you are that bored. And then I'm just going to add a shadow, radial shadow, descending, so low opacity, high feed, pure black, descending into the cheek edge right here. She has a pretty big smile. And so I want to show how the muscles have responded to that and are making that happen. We have some folding. The skin kind of has a collision with itself. And we get this cute dimple at the edge. Okay, so we have this little dimpling here. And that makes it for a more believable smile. And I just do those invisible shadows, which are very, very soft shadows. They're hard to see, but they add that little extra touch there. And then finally descending into black. So there are 6 dark spots on the face. Talked about them a lot over the years. They are the 2 dark spots of the edges of the mouth. They're the 2 nostrils. And then the 2 of the eyes. Which 2 of the eyes? You pick. It could be the lashes, it could be the eyebrows. I usually say 6 because the eyes have a whole system of darkness. Pupils, the pigment of the hair, and both the lashes and the eyebrow, the eye socket, and the eye socket line, this edge, and the general shadow of the eyes. It could be all of them at the same time. Okay, and then I'll just flatten and just clean up here. So lots of portraiture stuff today. But it all pretty much stems from the same idea that you really need to take portraits on one by one. The way I know that you have been neglecting some fundamentals is the way you drew the hair and the way you interpreted the hairline. Hair doesn't do this unless it's a wig. So we need to let the hair gradually grow. Let some of the skin value paint over the hair, let some of the hair value paint over the skin, so we have a more believable transition along the hairline. And then we're going to do some sparse sections where we really see the scalp come through. So this fundamental textures is a fundamental. Studying textures is one of the most important units for a beginner or early intermediate. It's really important to start building an acquaintanceship with textures. Understand where you are in the general rendering requirement, where you want to be, where you stop, where you naturally stop with rendering textures. Because everybody's got a limit, and not everybody wants to be a photorealist. The problem with this hair is that it's all like pinned back. So maybe you want to like throw in some kind of believable hair pattern that'll kind of read a little bit better. Don't want to damage your style too much. Oops. Or, you know, whatever. So I'm just trying to show a hair style that explains all of this adjustment. Okay, and so that expression that I talked about earlier, which is, oh, I don't believe you. Maybe that's what you were doing. I'm not sure, but it would come with a 2-parter. So complex expressions are divided between eyebrows. So we would have one eyebrow going up with the surprise of the question asked, and one eyebrow going upward only in the middle with the curiosity of the thing that was claimed that they don't believe. And maybe if you want to add an extra bit of sarcasm, you can knock down the eyebrow arc, or you can keep it up just to show that she is maybe a little bit extra curious or intrigued. Maybe friendly. Here would just be smug. You're really going for that divided value. And so that would be kind of the expression I imagine you were trying. I'm not sure, but I'll show you the before and after. Before and after of the expression. So before, neutral, after, before, after. And then there's the full before, which is before. So I'm not sure, again, what expression you were going for. Maybe it was an idea, the same idea as this one. I can see it, but there needs to be a little bit more clarity in your rendition. This is my version of that. Of course, I can't paint like only your version. Like I'm not a, I can't factor out my own style or my own knowledge in order to do the critique hour. So I'll always input some of myself in there. But I imagine that's where you might have been headed in your before. And then you can also see the asymmetry, the nose, how it's out of place. The nose isn't quite positioned on the symmetry line. The lack of structure on the mouth just seems like it's just floating, not affecting any muscles around it. And then there's that neutral. So before, not neutral, she's still smiling. After. And I would also add, just because it stood out to me just now, some of the shadow, since I'm introducing contrast now, some shadow to the upper iris. Okay, so I don't have time to look at this one in depth. I like what you did. I think because you had some bangs, that it made you undersize this eye, and it made you stay away from the bangs too much, maybe to avoid a tangent. But this eye feels like it's not quite where it should be. So maybe you can throw it up there a little bit and give the eyebrow a little more structure. I really like this kind of almost foggy, washed out, milky style, this anime style. I really like it. It's really cool. Maybe you could bring the nostril out with a bit more definition. And this 3/4 view mouth could use a little bit more, less drowning in shadow. So you could give the lip darkness, but the upper lip lightness a little bit, and that'll reveal the lip for you without having to do too much. But that's it for today. Really, you guys, you have to study the neutral. It's a safe place to study. The neutral expression is good place. It's a good place to learn skill, learn your fundamentals, learn edges, learn contrast, learn all those big deal fundamentals, which again aren't that big a deal once you really know how. It's like 5. There's like 5 of them or something. You don't have to complicate things by throwing an expression at the same time. And if you are accidentally throwing in expression, and you will, discover this either through your community, which everybody needs one, community and critique, or you'll just discover it on your own. One way or another, you'll realize my characters look intense. My character looks kind of creepy. My characters have weird expressions. It'll just something like that along those lines will start popping up to you. So before, after, slight changes that help get rid of some confusing elements. That eye that was sagging and the missing definition of that lip because you just put too much of a shadow on one side. So lots of changes. Oh, I left it at the intense expression. Lots of changes, but they all come from the same group of knowledge, the same 5 fundamentals or so. for you. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys coming out to the live stream. I live stream for one big reason, and that's because it's like, it feels like a classroom. I could easily just record these and upload them, but I like the live stream setting because it's like somewhere where you're going, somewhere where we're meeting, a lecture hall, and it just gives an extra little spirit of the classroom in the live streams. So I really appreciate you guys coming out to these. To submit your work for critique, all you got to do is go to istebrak.com and click on the subreddit icon right here. And join us on the Discord. I announce all my stuff there. If you want to learn and kind of really push your portraiture knowledge further, you can always get my masterclass. It's on sale. It's been on sale for a little while. I cover everything. Every single brushstroke is described, and it's got a pretty high rating. Thank you everybody who left a rating. I really appreciate it. Yeah, everything that you need to know, the 6 dark spots I mentioned and everything else, what this edge is, anywhere where my mouse falls, I have like 10-minute or 20-minute explanation on it. And then the tutorial itself, and then all the other details. So it's a really, really long, it's a long class and you get your money's worth. And it comes with written notes if you're more of a technical thinker that needs lists and you like lists and you function better with them. I list out all the fundamental brushstrokes that I make and the reason for them, the explanation. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time this Thursday at 5 or 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Bye, guys.